Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. In the last video, we had just finished up setting up LAMP on our virtual server that we built on top of a solid-state drive using Ubuntu and VirtualBox. We had got it where we can display this server homepage and edit it and SSH into it. So currently in the command window, the right side of the video, we are currently SSH'd into our server. If you want to know how to do that, you can go back to the previous video to see how we've done it. And then on the left side, we actually have the homepage displaying what we modified in the last video. So today we're going to be going over how to implement a virtual host like a manager, like a bash script, that way that we don't have to create the virtual host manually the way that you would normally do it in Ubuntu. It actually is just like one line of code, and you can create the www folders as well as the virtual host inside of, or in the host files for your server, without having to do them manually. So I'm going to first open up a GitHub page. So we're going to go to github.com, and then once you're at github.com, you can do a search for virtual host, and the author is Roverwire. So Roverwire, I've used this on many servers. It has different variations of it. So we're using Apache for our server setup, part of the LAMP installation. So the virtualhost.sh is the one that we are going to be using, but you can also, if you have a different flavor of your web server, you can use CentOS or any of the other ones that he has here. So we're just going to be using the virtualhost.sh for ours, and we're going to be following through his installation here. So we're going to skip down for the global shortcut because it has kind of all the code that we want to have in it. So inside of our command window, we're going to cd into our user local bin folder, and then we're going to run this wget command, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and I need to do that as sudo. So sudo copy and paste, and now the file is inside of our inside of this folder, and then we need to apply permissions to it. So just to check that it is in here, we're going to do an ls to look at it, and we see that it is there. So we're going to do chmod, and we're going to give it the correct permissions, and then we're just going to tell it which file that we want to give it permissions to. Again, sudo. Okay. You could also do it from here if you just want to have it installed in a local folder for your local folder for your user. If you do it this way, you're going to have to install curl. So, and whenever you go to run this with curl, you could you just do a apt get or apt install curl, and that'll install curl on your server. And it's probably good to have that on there anyway, because a lot of other websites use curl to go out and grab things and then pull them back in. So you would use curl, and then you would just copy over the raw file link, and then you would just run a curl, and then you can apply the permissions to it, so forth and so on. So that's the part here where it says download the script. That's what they mean. That means that you need to go in there and use curl to pull that file from the raw content. But we went ahead and skipped that step and just installed it straight into a global shortcut, which I would recommend doing because it does make it where it's open for any other user on your server to be able to use it. So it's kind of whatever you're wanting to do. Alright, so since we installed it in the user local bin, we could actually run this command. Whereas if you install it in yours, you have to actually specify which folder the sh file is in. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my main directory, and then I'm going to run sudo virtualhost create test.local. And now what it says here is the new virtual host has been created. The host has been added to the host file, and then it also reloaded Apache for us, and then it created the folder var www test local. So if we go to cd var www and do an ls, we can see that there's now a test local folder in here. And if we do cd test local, we put ourselves inside of that, and there's nothing in there except for the PHP info file, so that we can actually see what we're looking for. So now if we try to access test.local, it's not going to work because we don't have our host file set up on the Windows machine to be able to read that test.local, which I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But you might also want to notice that if we call it test.local, it's going to create a folder called test.local. So it takes the TLD as well as the domain that you're trying to create, and it combines them into one folder. So just keep that in mind whenever you're naming something, that if you have a specific naming convention that you want to work with, this is the way it's going to name it. So if we try to go to, I'm not going to open it up because it's just going to end up redirecting me and telling me that it can't be used. So we're not going to try to go to it right now. What we want to do is I'm going to open up a notepad window, and I'm going to edit my host file. So bear with me just a second. And if you're on a Windows machine, that is located in C, Windows, I do this so many times, System 32, except drivers, is it drivers? Yes, drivers. So if you're on a Windows machine, to edit your host file in order to be able to set a host on your Windows machine to recognize this non-existent domain, you need to go to your C drive, Windows, System 32, drivers, etc. And then inside of that you'll have a host file. And you can just open that up with Notepad, Notepad++, or whatever it is that you want to do. And then you would just add the IP address of the server, which I can do here. So IP ADDR, and the IP address of the server is 192.168.0.33. And then I'm going to name the domain test.local. And then I'm going to save it. The reason I don't have where you can see this is because on my host file there's a lot of other local servers that I do for my business, so you wouldn't be able to see it because there's a lot of other stuff on there that I don't want y'all to see in this video. But essentially what you would type into your host file is something like this. So it's going to have the IP address space the test.local. So now if we come in here and we run test.local, it should show this. And then we can click on here and see that it is using PHP version 7.4.3, which is what we currently have installed on this server, and then everything else that is currently open for us. So if we go back over here, we can come into our test local folder, and I'm going to do sudo nano, let's do index.php, and that's going to bring up the nano editor for Ubuntu. So I'm just going to add something in here, and it's going to be h1 hello, welcome to the test.local server, and then I'm just going to finish that out here, and then I'm going to save it and exit that. And now if we refresh this, we now have hello, welcome to the test.local server, which means that we are completely able to access this website. Just by typing in one line of code and adding it to our host file, it allowed us to create a server very quickly. Now you can also see that you have other options here: create, delete, domain, and then the optional host directory. So the ones that we use the most is obviously the create and delete, and then you can use it here like they have it here, and do sudo VirtualHost create whatever the local domain is, and then point it to a specific directory. If you already have the directory created. If you don't have the directory created, then it'll create it for you, and then you can delete from that directory as well. So what I'm going to show you on this one is we're going to do sudo VirtualHost delete, delete. I thought it messed up my screen for a second there. It was just wrapping. VirtualHost delete, and then test.local, and then it's going to verify that it deleted the configuration files that it created on the host. It reloaded Apache. Now it's asking me if I want to delete that host root directory. So I can hit yes on this, and then everything will be gone. So if I do cd/var/www, and then we do an ls again, that test local folder is now gone. So if we come back over here, test.local just goes straight to the home page because I still have it in my Windows machine host file. Okay, so let's go ahead and add it back. So sudo virtualhost create test.local, and now it's back empty where it was. And essentially what you could do here is you can install PHP from the command, or not PHP, but WordPress from the command line. In a previous video I showed you how to install WordPress, and there should be a notification at the top saying that, you know, this is a video you can go look at, so go check that out. And I give you a way that you can do it manually, or if you go read the article, there's a way that you can do it straight from the SSH command line and get the entire thing up and working for you. You can also go switch over to the database and run through the commands to create the database so that WordPress is there. So you could essentially create the web server, install WordPress, tie it into your database that you created, all from your SSH command line. So if you're not familiar with SSH, definitely get familiar with it because it is something that you will be using a lot of in the future. Alright, so I'm going to clear and go back to my main folder. Clear again. And now let's see what else can we do. So since we already have this server set up, let's go ahead and let me show you how to install WordPress on it. So it's a real quick process, and if you need a reference, you can always go to the devdrawer.com, and from here you can see kind of like a text tutorials of all of the videos that I have done. So you can go to the quickie how to install WordPress, and then down here you have the manual installation, which is what we went over in the video because we were at that time we were using WAMP. So we're going to use the wget version of it this time, and you can just essentially copy and paste everything that I have here. So let's open up our SSH and go to the folder that we created. So cd var www, and then we're going to go into test local, and then from here we're going to run this wget command, and then it's going to install. So if we do an ls right now, you'll see that it has the latest.tar.gz installed. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to extract this tar file into the files itself. And then we do ls again. You'll see that now we have a WordPress directory inside of our folder. So we're going to next do the next command, which is the move the WordPress folder into the primary directory that it's currently in. So now we move it. If we do an ls, you can see that it took everything that was inside of that WordPress folder and it moved it over. So the tar file and the WordPress still exist. So now we're going to come over here and do the rm dir. So you're going to remove that directory for WordPress, and you may or may not have to do sudo on this one, which if you do, I probably need to go in there and update my document. But if you run into this issue where it doesn't work because you don't have permissions, sudo is the way to go. So now we remove that, and then we're going to remove that tar file as well. And there we go. So now if we do an ls, they're gone. So the next thing that we need to do here is install the database. So if we come back over here and refresh, you'll see that it's ready to do the WordPress installation. So now we're going to log into the MySQL, and we're going to run it that way, or we can just go straight to our PHP MyAdmin, which is what we set up in the previous video. But I'm going to show you how to do it the MySQL way. Okay, so I cleared out the window first because it's going to be a little bit for us to get in there. But in our last video, we created a MySQL user that was not root, so that's the one we're going to use to log into the system. So in order to get into MySQL from your SSH, you're going to do MySQL -u, and then the user that we created was devdrawer, and then we're going to do -p, and it's going to ask us for the password, which is the password that we set when we created the user. And I don't know why did I do R? -u, and then we're able to log in. So MySQL -u devdrawer -p, or whatever your user is, and that'll get us into MySQL. So from here, we're just going to run the statement to create a database. So we're going to do create database, and then we're going to call the database test.db, and then we're going to put a semicolon after it so it knows to quit after this command, and that's all you have to do to create the database. So now we exit, and it brings us back here, so we clear the screen, and now we can actually go through with our installation of WordPress. So let's go. The database name is test.db, dev drawer, and then the password, I just set it as password for the user, and we're going to use the local host, and then the table prefix is fine as it is right now on the dev environment. So we submit this, and it can't write to the folder. So let's go back, and you have to give permissions to your users, to the user of your www data user, in order to be able to execute commands straight to be able to load these files that you need to load on your web server. Currently, no one has access to this file folder system. Okay, so back in your command window, you're going to run this command to give the www data user, as well as the user that we created, permissions to this folder. So we're going to do ch own big R www dash data colon dev drawer, and then we're going to do var www, and then the folder that we're on right now, which is test.local. Now if we run that and we run this again, it should be able to create those files. So previously when we tried to run it, it just showed the error saying that it couldn't create the files and it wants you to upload the wp-config manually. But by running that command, it gave the web server access to those files. Now we just run the installation, and we're going to type in dev drawer server test, and the username is going to be dev drawer, password is password, and I'm going to confirm this, and then we're going to do test at the dev drawer, and you can discourage search engines from indexing the site. It doesn't really matter. Nothing can hit your outside network unless you open it up through your ports. So we're not going to do that for this. So let's go ahead and install WordPress. And now we are in WordPress, and we're going to do the username was dev drawer with the password of password, and we have a fully functioning WordPress website. All right, there we go. And you also, if you have FileZilla or one of those FTP programs, you can actually FTP into your file system on the server. Even though it's not a physical server, you can still FTP into it using the IP address, and you can make changes that way, or you can do everything through SSH, or you could even use something like Samba to create a link from your web server to Windows in order to be able to browse the files on your web server from Windows. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to undo everything that we just did. So we're going to do sudo virtual host delete test.local, test.local, and we're going to delete everything from it because I'm going to show you how quickly you can install everything that we just went over to get your WordPress website up and running. Alright, so now that we've removed everything from the var folder, the www folder, we're going to log into our PHP My Admin. And just to show you a different way to do it, as we're going to click on our testdb and then drop it. Now that's something that you could have done from the MySQL window, but we're going to just do it from here just to show you a different way to do it. So now what I want to do is just very quickly, I'm going to show you how long it takes to build a virtual host, install WordPress, and have a working WordPress website. So let's go back, and first thing we want to do is create a MySQL database. So let's create that database first. So we're going to log in with MySQL -u, then the username -p, enter the password, then we're going to do create database testdb, and then we're going to exit out of this for now. And then we're going to do sudo VirtualHost create test.local, since that's what I already have in my Windows host file. And then it's going to create everything that we need. So then we're going to cd var www test local, and then referencing the article that I previously created for installing it, we're just going to copy over these commands inside of our folder that we've created, and then just going to copy them one by one. Wonder if that'll work without sudo. It does. Good. Alright, so just going through and pasting, and then now we should be able to go back to test.local, and it's going to ask us to install it. Now remember, before we get to this point, we need to run that command to own this folder again. It should technically still be there, but we're going to do it anyway. So sudo ch own r www-data, and then dev drawer or your username /var www test local. And now we have that where we can actually run our WordPress installation. So we set this as testdb with dev drawer password localhost wp. Then we're going to run the installation. Dev drawer test server, username is going to be dev drawer, password is password, confirm, put in the test email address, and install WordPress. Now we can log into it, and voila, we have a fully functional WordPress website that we can customize, we can FTP into, that we can do all kinds of cool stuff with. And it took, what, maybe 2 minutes to completely build it from nothing existing using this VirtualHost Manager, as well as the commands that I have in our quickie video for WordPress. So I think that's going to cover everything that we have for today. But I do appreciate you guys watching. If you like the video, hit a thumbs up on it. Subscribe for more videos. I try to do these once a week, every Friday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let me know if y'all have any comments about other tutorials that you would like to see. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.